Hi, so glad you're here. This channel is all about looking and diving deep into economic forces and how that impacts our political power, which is ultimately shaping the world in which we are all living, and the collective belief that that world could be a much better place for a lot more people. Today, I want to dive deep into wealth, and particularly wealth in the context that is used in our political discourse. You see, ever since the sweeping elections of Democratic victories, I've seen a huge uptick online. I don't know if it's from bots or from genuine concern that is talking about wealth as objectively being awesome in the United States. It may take the form of I'm sitting down at Starbucks and all these people complaining about capitalism are really enjoying Starbucks. They should be thankful of capitalism because of Starbucks or something like that. It's not anything bad to say about Starbucks, but it's interesting that the people who seem to make the argument that wealth is objectively better in the US than anywhere else in the world sort of misses the entire point that wealth in the context of our political system and political vibe is far more relative than it is objective. We're going to dive into that for the rest of this video. The last thing I'll say about objective wealth is that people making the term wealth is objectively more in the US than anywhere else in the world also just kind of misses the point about how much of that wealth is actually combined in such a small group of people's hands. See, if you and I are sitting in a room and Elon Musk walks in, the wealth of that room is great. Does that really mean we're better off? That's the part where it's all relative, right? So let's dive into 3 ways that wealth is relative and why that's more important for our politics. First of all, wealth is relative to what you actually need. The median household income in the US may be more than most other countries, but you know what? The median household costs and expenses is also more than most other countries. You see, wealth is a mindset, and it's usually you feel wealthy when you have more money coming in, either through income, wages, or assets, than what you have to spend for the sort of lifestyle you want to live. You can be incredibly wealthy if you're willing to go live in the middle of nowhere and use almost nothing from society. You need very little money coming in to do that. Most of us want to have a house. Most of us want to have a car and some freedom to be able to enjoy things that we want to enjoy. There are millionaires and even probably some billionaires out there that are living a lifestyle to such excess that they're actually living paycheck to paycheck and don't feel wealthy at all. Wealth is relative to what you need to have the lifestyle you want to live. Americans have been sold a materialistic lifestyle. That means not only do we need basic costs for food, groceries, the absolute necessities of life are higher here than a lot of other countries, but the sort of lifestyle that we're told that we should all have as achievable is also incredibly higher than a lot of other countries. Secondly, wealth is relative to those around us. Now, when I was a kid, this happened to be so much of a problem. Maybe the person across the street was a salesperson, earned a little more, and had a car phone when they first came out, and those of us didn't. But we all had used cars. We all had single-family households. Like, we were all basically the same. And the billionaires of the time, the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates, who are still billionaires, still in our society, weren't flaunting their wealth the way it gets flaunted today. They certainly weren't climbing up onto stages with chainsaws to advocate how much they're going to cut government spending. They certainly weren't on social media advertising how amazing their celebrity life is 24/7 nonstop. And here is where we have to go back to some objective measures as well. You see, this graph shows that over time, middle class wealth has gone down dramatically. Top tier wealth has gone up dramatically. And because we all live, or we can all see a social online presence, we're all living in this society where we're all getting compared to the wealthiest among us. Therefore, we feel like we have less. Wealth is relative, and objectively, wealth is shared with less and less people. Lastly, wealth is relative to our own expectations. Where do those come from? Some of it is our own personal makeup and what we want. But another way to look at this is to look at our own families. And I have a book coming out in January that really dives into a lot of these topics. It's called You Shouldn't Have to Kill to Get Ahead, Reimagining Wealth, Power, and Belonging in America. And in part of that research I was doing for that book, I wanted to step aside from the objective measures of wealth because they're kind of dry, hard to relate to. And instead, I wanted to see what sort of economic environment did my grandfather enter when he was 30, entering the prime of his working years, versus my dad when he was 30, versus someone 30 years old, kind of post pandemic. And here I'll put up the chart on the screen. I won't read off every number, but median individual income, adjusted for inflation, so we're all comparing similar dollars, has gone up a little bit. The cost of a home has gone from $65,000 to $420,000. The cost of a bachelor's degree for in-state tuition for 4 years have gone from $28,000 to over $112,000. The cost of healthcare spending has gone from $800 to over $14,000. The amount of hours we're working has gone up by almost a third. The food cost per person has gone from $2,300 all the way up to over $5,000. You see, my grandfather, and these aren't the figures that myself and my family are earning, these are median figures for the generations. But my grandfather was a factory worker, barely graduated from high school. His wife, my grandmother, never worked a day in her life to earn an income. She worked every day at home to raise a family of 6 children. That work was hard. I'm not saying it wasn't. But what I am saying is a single factory worker with just a high school degree was able to buy a home, ultimately able to buy a cottage in the Berkshires, to have a boat, and to raise 6 kids in a middle-class lifestyle in America. That doesn't exist today. In fact, my wife and I both have master's degrees. We don't even have kids. And we worked, and we have worked well over 100-hour work weeks. Are we significantly better off than my grandfather was as a factory worker? Not really. And my brother and sister have actually slid back. Is it really an unfair expectation to say future generations will have it better than we do? Especially when, going back to the objective measures of wealth, we are producing more wealth in this country than any country in the history of the world ever. We are working more hours per worker than any time in our history. We are producing more per hour than any time in our history. And yet wages are actually going down in the aggregate. That's where the sense of wealth and this disparity of what people are expecting and what they're actually getting are two totally different things. And if you feel angry by this, I get it. It annoys me to no end when people are commenting on social media that you should just enjoy your Starbucks and be thankful. The thing is, we are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. If we had just a little bit more fair of a capitalistic system, that wealth would be getting shared like it used to be. Like my grandfather's generation had it. Like the beginning of my dad's generation had it when they first entered the workforce. That isn't about capitalism versus socialism. It's about what is fair for Americans. And we can do it. There's a whole bunch of things we can learn from our own history. There's a bunch of solutions. If you want me to dive deeper into what those solutions are, comment below and just say solutions. I'll know what you're talking about because it's on this video. This channel, we're really trying to grow. And so I really appreciate your help in helping it grow. Please share these videos. Please comment down below what other topics you'd like me to dive into. Happy to research anything this community wants. Thank you. If you haven't yet, please click like on this video, drop a comment below, and click that subscribe button. It'll help the YouTube algorithm make sure that these videos are getting into your feed. Thank you.